Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Um, let's see, Dr. Craft, you work for an organization that's very concerned about protecting the environment, making sure we have clean air quality. And is on the concept of diminishing returns, do you think we ever get to a point where we're trying to achieve something that the cost to achieve it is more than it's worth achieving, or should we just make improving air quality the ultimate goal at any cost?
Well, Environmental Defense Fund uses market-based principles as a foundation for our work. So we've worked successfully with the oil and gas industry, for example, to implement control technologies on equipment that saves money and also reduces the amount of pollution in the air. Getting to the question of diminishing returns, I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be in terms of reducing the amount of pollution. The question of, how is Texas going to comply? Well, we have VOC emissions in Houston that through studies funded by TCEQ show that those emissions are underestimated by a factor of 5 to 10. So looking at reduction of upset events, looking at the 1 billion.
I'm from Arkansas, I'm not from Texas, so I need to move on here. It says here in your testimony that to reduce harmful air pollution such as ozone from pollution hotspot areas. Have you ever been to Arkansas?
Yes, I have. We work closely with Walmart, and so we have an office in Bentonville. I've been there several times.
Okay, so I was there last week in my district, which happens to have about 18,000 square miles of forest. To put that in perspective, just the forest in my district are about 264 times larger than Washington, D.C. And I like to get out in my district in the forest and breathe the fresh air. Actually, I think the air quality is much better there than it is here, but if you look at the ozone monitors, it's really not that much different than the air quality here in Washington, D.C. And actually, if you look at some of the information from the EPA, it talks about trees creating a lot of ozone through their VOC emissions. So, should we go cut down all the trees in my district so we can improve air quality?
Well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. We're actually looking into trees as an intervention strategy for places like Houston. So there is evidence that some species of trees release VOCs, but not all species.
So maybe we should just plant plantations of monocrops in Houston to fix the air quality down there. I'm trained in forestry, so that would be kind of interesting if we started doing stuff like that. Moving along, Mr. Holmstead, are you familiar with EPA's claim that the proposed ozone standard will only impact 9 counties?
Yes, that's just silly. They first of all assume all kinds of things and run their models and say, look, there's only going to be 9 counties that don't attain the standard. The problem, that's not the way the Clean Air Act works. It's not only counties where there might be a monitor, it's everywhere else where EPA predicts using models that you're going to have an area that violates the standard. So that actually really makes me angry. EPA should be at least honest about the implications of this, because it's going to affect many, many more parts of the country.
So it's very dishonest of them not to include non-monitored counties, because we know the air mixes, and you got these autogenic effects. What about using the year 2025? Is that dishonest as well?
Well, yeah, because all of these regulatory consequences happen now. The permitting problems happen now. All the other regulations happen now. If the Clean Air Act said, great, if EPA says that everyone's going to come into attainment within 10 years, if that's the way it worked, that would be great. But we don't wait around. You impose all these obligations now, regardless of what EPA projects for 2025.
Yeah, so can you explain quickly the actual impact of the ozone rule for those of us not inclined to use EPA's fuzzy math or their fuzzy logic, or whatever it is they use. Maybe we need to pump some of that clean air from Arkansas over into the EPA building.
Just very quickly, it will be very hard to expand new businesses in many rural parts of the country. That's the most kind of the thing people don't understand. This is what this affects is rural parts of the country would like to attract new business. That is going to be difficult or impossible. And then in other areas, you just drive up the costs even more, and you do so unnecessarily. There's just a better way to clean the air, but unfortunately, we've become so dug into this statute that was created 45 years ago that just doesn't really work anymore for the way that the world works today.
So you just cut down all the trees in my district and we could meet the air quality.
Well, at some point afterwards, I'll tell you a story about VOC emissions and trees. It's actually kind of sad to see what EPA has done in the past about that issue, but we don't have time to talk about it here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.